in preparation for this episode, I want to let you know that this is going to be a little bit different. We do not have a narrative, and that's because of the content. There's so much to cover in Exodus chapter 32 that we just skipped to the conversation. We hope that you enjoy our discussion.
So, Jermaine, in season 1, we had an episode that we kind of dubbed our premiere episode. Not the first, but it was kind of like our flagship episode.
Yeah, and that was Moses and Uncle Tom.
Yeah, so the title was kind of provocative, and that was meant to be. And we did it the same way with this episode. So this is kind of our mothership episode of the season.
Yeah, not because of what we're going to discuss, but its controversial nature and the disappointment that we see in Exodus 32 is actually why we named it that. It's like it makes you incredulous to think that at this point the church could fail so miserably.
Yeah, top shelf word there, incredulous. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So just for, full transparency here, Jermaine and I have been in studio here for probably the last hour, maybe hour and a half, and we have just been doing a little bit of extra study into Exodus chapter 32. And while we were having this study time and this conversation, we recognized, this is an episode we wanted to spend a lot of time on. We've both done studies personally and now here together. And so this episode might be a little bit longer than the hour 5 minutes that you're used to.
Yeah, and I will unapologetically say that in front of us right now is a mess. We have many books open, commentaries that we've been reading, and notes that we've gathered. And it's like there's so much that's coming at us in Exodus 32 that there's so much that we want to say that it's kind of hard to squeeze it all in this time frame. So we're a little bit nervous about where we might end this episode. We might go beyond the hour, which our rule has been to not go beyond 1 hour.
Yeah, not too far past it. So this episode might have a little bit different of a vibe to it. It might be a little bit more informal because there's so much that we're trying to cover. This is going to be more of like a conversation. Now, I know all of our episodes are conversations, really, but this one might be a little bit more sporadic as we remember ideas or something comes up and it brings us back to another idea that we had. So anyway, we thank you for bearing with us and jumping on board, but we're really excited about this topic, which we have dubbed Holy Cow.
That's right. There goes the incredulity.
Kind of a double play on words.
Yeah, we'll try our very best to behave in terms of our tangents. But Exodus 32 is where we are. So for our listeners, that's where we are, Exodus 32. And we're going to go over and let's just get started. Jump right into it, verse 1.
Sure. Before you get there to verse 1, I want to read one little
Dietrich
statement.
Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
Yes, please read.
Yeah, so it's just one little thing. As I'm studying the Bible, I take a look at some heroes of mine that have made it or did make it, a priority in their life. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which we've talked about on this podcast before, and we're going to
talk about him again.
He writes this in Berlin sometime around 1933. So pre-World War II breaking out in Europe. He says this about Exodus 32 as he's introducing a sermon he's preaching there in Berlin. He says, Exodus 32, the priest against the prophet, the church of the world against the church of faith, the church of Aaron against the church of Moses, this external and eternal conflict in the church of Christ and its resolution is what we are going to hear about today.
Oh, how's that for an introduction?
Yeah, so we'll borrow that from Dr. Bonhoeffer here, and before we read Exodus 32:1. But the narrative of this is the congregation of the people.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good way of contextualizing it because that's what you see, right? Yep. The church above and the church below. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think let's go with that in mind. So we're reading this with the glasses on, that we're examining the church and how it behaves, right? So I'll get started. Exodus 32, verse 1. And the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, and the people gathered opposite Aaron, and they said to him. Now let's pause here for a quick second.
Let's do it.
That there are a couple words that stands out to me right away, and I think we might do them in the reverse order. Now, Some commentators argue about the meaning of that word. Some translate it a little bit differently. The word gathered opposite Aaron or gathered together to speak with Aaron, or some translation gather in front of Aaron.
Sure.
But the predominant thought, and I subscribe to this, is that they gathered more or less against Aaron, meaning in opposition to Aaron, and they were trying to force him to accomplish their own will.
Yeah, so they're ganging up on Aaron. I think that's how I would put it if I was translating, which is why I'm not a Bible translator. But yeah, they whether they're in front of him, I don't know the exact position, but I agree with you. They are at odds with Aaron, and they are going to demand something of him that he is uneasy.
Which to me is a very scary thought when you kind of think about that, because you're looking at, I mean, if our reckoning is correct, we're looking at somewhere above 2 million folks.
Yeah.
And so if we're looking at even a simple minority of that number, there's a lot of people to be opposing Aaron and coming with a lot of fervor, a lot of passion, perhaps at this point a lot of complaints, which we mentioned in the narrative. And so I would see Aaron perhaps fearful for his life. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think just in the context and kind of in the tone of the chapter that's written here, the children of Israel are not just demanding, but they are also very quick to go into mob mentality as a people. That's something that they picked up probably in Egypt. And we see that's something that the Israelite nation even continues all the way up to the time of Jesus. I mean, the Romans are petrified of the mobs in Jerusalem. And we see that here in Exodus as well. I think that Aaron is the minority in this
situation.
Yeah. And he knows it. And there's probably some rocks nearby that could make pretty good projectiles pretty fast if he doesn't go the way of the people.
Which is something very fascinating that you're saying here. And the thought that the church could have a propensity towards violence is just seems inconsistent to me. But if you consider the fact that they've learned violence coming from Egypt, that has been their experience, right? Going into the past a little bit, it seems to me that that's the way they solve their problems, because that's how they were trained, right? They're used to being beaten, and so it's like, if we want our way, we're kind of gonna beat Aaron into submission, and that is just crazy to even imagine.
Well, going back in the narrative to Exodus, we're still in Exodus, but going back to when the children of Israel are still in Egypt, I think that Pharaoh, rightly so, sees the number of people that are there and maybe their propensity to have an uprising, as slaves would be tempted to do, right? And so I think Pharaoh's, scared, and that's why they start killing off children, right? And so, the power of people coming together can be a very good thing. It can be a revolution, or it can be a mob. And there's a very fine line between revolution and just mob mentality.
Now, I know we won't get into this too much, but it's interesting to me, like, when slavery is violent in its act, you do create a violent response at some point down the line.
Yeah.
And we're not saying here in this case that violence is the outcome, but you can see Aaron caving to some of that pressure.
Yeah.
But the idea of fear in his mind is, I mean, that's a real deal. That's a real thing.
And let's think about this. The children of Israel have started, they haven't caused it, but they're a part of a revolution. Like, God has started the revolution of this new congregation of people, right? And they didn't have to lift a finger in violence to cause this revolution. God did it. By his judgments. Yeah, and so now they're here in this place.
Except that they're raising that finger now.
They sure are.
Yeah. So let's keep reading. So so they gather against Aaron, which I think is the proper translation.
Yeah.
And they say, "Come make for us gods who will go before us, because this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him."
So there's some things I want to talk about here.
Sure.
So when it talks about make up for us gods, that word there, again, in Hebrew is the word Elohim. Now, if you've ever done any study in the book of Genesis or God the Father or the Godhead at all, Elohim will be one of the first words that you run into and recognize.
That's right.
Because Elohim is God in the plural sense, right? So in Genesis 1, when God creates the world, Elohim.
In the beginning,
Elohim. God, right? So Father, Son, Spirit. Some translations here will put make for us gods, as the King James did. So it translates that as the children of Israel are looking for multiple gods. I don't think that's a correct translation for a few different reasons, one of which is Aaron does not create multiple calves. He creates a singular one, right? So he doesn't create for them gods as they requested. I believe what this is talking about here is the children of Israel are saying, make for us a better Elohim. So they're using God's name. They're using Yahweh, Elohim, God in its fullest sense. And they're saying, we want a better one to lead us. Yeah, so make for us a new Elohim.
Which announces an element of dissatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction, distrust. It could announce a lot of things.
Can I introduce a word?
Go ahead.
So in this verse, again, at the very beginning, and I know we're going to pick on different words here.
Yeah, a lot of wordplay today.
One of the words that pop out to me is the word, it says, when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down.
Yeah.
Right? That word delay in the Hebrew translation is bosh.
That's a loaded term.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I'm with you. So for instance, on your same point, we're going to get into bosh. The children of Israel are signaling dissatisfaction in just their language, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So they not only say, create for us an Elohim, which by the way, Elohim cannot be created, but we'll get to that in a minute. Then they say, as for this Moses,
there's distance.
They're creating a distance away, not just from God, but also from their leader Moses,
which would be the prophet.
Yeah, the prophet, and he's been gone for 40 days ish, around that time frame, right? Which we'll see a little bit later. So you're right. They're creating a mass distance away from not just God, but their guy Moses, that is the mouthpiece of God. But going back to bosh, there's a lot of history with that word.
Yes, and we're going to get to the first introduction of the word, but the idea is we're talking about, number one, the people's perspective, right? So this is from their view, right? This is how the story is being told,
right?
Because that's why it says when the people saw,
yeah,
right? So in their eyes, Moses has boshed them,
okay,
right? So the word boshed, it means to be put to shame, it means to embarrass,
yeah,
it means to disappoint.
Yep.
So this is the Exodus version of the Great Disappointment.
I like that.
Is that cool? So they're disappointed by the delay. And the delay for them is an embarrassment. It's like, Moses, you've boshed us because of how long you're taking to get down from the mountain.
Disgraced.
So we are disgraced right now in the wilderness as we are left. And that's the language that they use as for this Moses who brought us up out of the land of Egypt. We do not know what has become of him. So it's like, bro, you let us down.
Yeah.
Right. You've embarrassed us as a congregation.
They even consider him dead, right? And a few verses later, like he might not be alive anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the presence, and again, keep in mind here kind of the geography and the timeline of where we are. And I know, and I apologize for this season, we've kind of jumped around a little bit. We haven't gone as chronologically as we would have preferred. But this is after the 10 Commandments have been given.
Yep.
This is after God has prescribed for them how to build the temple.
That's right.
And gathered materials for that temple to be built. They are still at the foot of Mount Sinai.
Which means the fire is still on top.
Fire still on top. They have heard the audible voice of God already. And now Moses has gone into this place. So there's still that fence separating them from Sinai, right? And they are in eye shot of what is covering the presence of God.
Yeah, which is kind of ridiculous to think, right? For them to want distance from God when he's this close.
I think it goes back to your word.
Bosh, right? And again, for them, it's embarrassing to be associated with a God that delays. Now, we have to unpack that because time is always a factor in the human experience. Right? These people have waited 400 and some years before the Exodus. And right on time, which, by the way, God had told Abraham that they would be in Egypt for 400 years. So he had told them that this would occur, and God showed up right on time.
Yep, as always.
And now they're in the wilderness for some time. Moses is on the top of the mountain for 40 days. And again, time. And I love the fact that God utilizes time because it is the test of time that usually produces character or reveals character.
And the 40 thing should ring a bell for Bible students. 40 tends to be a time of testing.
That's exactly right.
Like you've been saying.
Jesus,
Jesus in the wilderness for
in
40
Matthew 4.
days.
Mm-hmm.
Moses in the desert for 40
years.
Moses going up to Mount Sinai so this is a time when God is. I don't think there's anything magical about the 40 days, obviously, but it's the Bible is trying to let us know that God is testing his people a little bit here.
And I would say it's also a time of seeking.
Agreed.
Right? Like in order to endure the test, you have to have the resources to pass, right? For Jesus, he knew the word to the point where he was able to endure the test.
Right.
And Moses knew God to the point that he was able to endure the test. So it's interesting that they're frustrated by the delay, and this illustrates to us that they were not using the testing time in a proper way.
Okay, so the delay of either God or Moses, depending on who they're blaming, and it sounds like both, is causing shame they feel like shame.
They feel let down.
You ever been stood up on a date before?
No. Have you? No, I'm curious. I've never been stood up on a date before. I've been given the wrong number.
I have been stood up on a date before.
Really?
Yes. I have been that guy that has sat in a restaurant.
No, you gotta unpack that, bro.
This was not my wife.
Did you at least order?
No. I sat in this place for like a solid 20 minutes. Nothing.
Dude, really?
Nothing.
Oh, man.
That brings some shame.
No, it does. It does. You can't eat your food.
Because you're that guy, right? You're that guy that's looking at his watch, waiting for her to come and
watching the door.
And everyone's watching you going, oh, this poor guy.
Yeah.
And you know everyone's watching your watch. And I bring that up because, waiting sometimes can
produce bullshit.
I got a call this morning. I have my car's in the shop right now. And if Jay, you're listening, yes, it's a Subaru. And yes, I know that's probably why it's in the shop. But I am getting a wheel bearing fixed, and the mechanic is like, hey, I looked at your sticker for your last oil change, and it's 40,000 miles.
Oh, 40,000 miles.
And I'm like, well, I changed my oil in between.
You did it yourself. Okay. I was about to say, what?
But, if I hadn't, that would have caused some major shame.
Yeah,
right?
You would have.
Yeah. So being late, and that is not the point of our, being late or whatever, but this distance of time is causing the children of Israel to get uneasy and uncomfortable and embarrassed and disgraced.
And I would imagine too that you probably put some distance between you and that girl that stood you.
Never talk to her again. Never,
yeah. You see what I'm saying? So same thing with the wrong number. I got a wrong number once and called in. Yeah, that did not work out. Needless to say, I never called again.
Hello, this is Wendy's. What kind of gonna get for your order? Yeah,
but being stood up that has an impact.
It does.
And it's hard to trust further, right? So that's the issue. Mm-hmm. And so for them, and again, the natural, but we have to come back to this point. The point is from their perspective.
Yeah.
So another way that we could probably put this in your situation with the girl, I'm sorry to pick on this, but
I knew you'd love this.
But let's say, for example, it's one of those, what do you call those, Cinderella type stories where somehow she got stuck somewhere and her phone battery died or whatever. What I'm saying is God is not similar to that case.
Right. Now,
it's in other words, the misunderstanding is on us.
Yeah, God's not late.
God doesn't stand us up, right? Yeah. That's the point I'm making. So for them, the fire is still visible.
Yep.
Moses is still in the mountain, right? They maybe assume that word assume.
Yep.
That Moses has died.
It's a big leap.
And there's no leader, right? We have nobody else. Mm-hmm. And this is I just imagine it coming to Aaron like, this is kind of embarrassing. Mm-hmm. The people are here, they're milling around, they don't have anything to do. And they're really gung-ho about worshiping. Like, we are the worshipers of God. We are the church of God. And here we are sitting idle.
Yeah. Play on words there too. Sitting idle. Yeah, that's good.
So now they're like, hey, let's make a golden calf. Now, I want to go further with that word bosh.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So there's a story in the book of Judges that highlights this.
Okay.
And the way that it highlights is waiting to the point of embarrassment. So this is Judges chapter 3. and verse 25. Now, you might know this chapter in the book of Judges where you're talking about Ehud and Eglon.
The lefty, the southpaw.
The lefty guy. And Eglon, the fat king, right? And the Bible actually calls him that. So it's very interesting that it says that the lefty guy goes in and he takes out Eglon, right? Mm-hmm. And Eglon's servants were waiting for a period of time because he was they thought that he was in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we don't want to disturb the guy. And the Bible literally writes that they waited until they were embarrassed.
Same word,
bosh.
Yeah.
And then they went in to check on the king. So they took an action based on their shame.
And notice there was distance that was causing that shame.
Yes.
Right? Here's another
distance
example.
and uncertainty.
Yeah, here's another example of that. This is, so in Scripture, the worship of other gods it brings a unique shame on the Israelite worshipers, right? So this is in Hosea chapter 9, verse 10. It says, but they went to Baal, which we know who Baal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Consecrated themselves to shame, bosh, and became abhorrent like the thing that they worshipped. So shame in this verse is treated as a synonym with Baal.
So to worship Baal would be would be in a state of bosh. Like yes. you have become the shame you worship.
Right.
So Baal is shame.
And because they're worshiping a god of shame, again, reading the verse here in Hosea, it says they became abhorrent like the thing they worshiped.
That's crazy.
So if you worship shame,
you become shame.
You become shamed.
Ooh, okay, all right.
It's crazy because if we aren't worshiping God, we are...
That what we worship is for our shame. I mean, it becomes our shame.
And if you create a God, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but the God that we create looks an awful lot like ourselves.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway.
There's another example, and this is the example of King Saul.
Yes.
Now, King Saul is a very interesting character. Now, you mentioned Baal. Mm-hmm. King Saul had 3 sons. Now, some are more familiar to us. There's Jonathan, and I think the other was Elihud.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you all of them. This is the one you're talking about is his 4th son, actually.
His 4th son. So this 4th son, his name, when Saul gave him the name literally is Eshbaal.
Yes, Eshbaal. Yep. 4th, man of Baal is what it literally means.
Man of Baal, right? Mm-hmm. So interestingly enough, in the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 8 and verse 33,
yep,
that's where we find the word Eshbaal,
yep,
right, mentioned there. But then if you go over to 2 Samuel 2 and verse 8, his name is changed.
Yeah.
And his name is changed to Ishbosheth. So
going back to the word bosh, which we've been talking about, which is associated with shame and also synonymous with Baal, according to the book of Hosea.
And because Saul did not imagine this son to be king, he names him essentially a shame to the family.
Right.
Which Ishbosheth is what that is, or Eshbaal.
Yep. One commentator, I think, because there's a lot of understanding or disagreement about why his name was changed. I think this is interesting. It says later copyists changed the name in the book of Samuel because the book of Samuel was read aloud in synagogues. And, you can't say the word Baal.
You're not going to say Baal in church. Yeah.
So you switch it. But anyway, false god, shame. Closely associated, or the Bible would say synonymous.
Yeah. So to leave the true God for any reason is to lead yourself towards shame. And that's what we see in Exodus 32, which we're building the foundation for that, because that's where the children of Israel eventually end up.
Right.
Right. So let's ask ourselves, number one, is it a legitimate reason to turn away from God simply because he delays?
Okay, I have a verse on that. So 2 Peter, you kind of already mentioned like the 1844 thing, the great disappointment. 2 Peter has a prophecy that I find very interesting, and it talks about the last days. 2 Peter 3:3 says this, knowing first, that in last days scoffers will walk in their own lust. Interesting.
Lust.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
4, and saying, where's the promise of his coming? Since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant, that by the word of the Lord, the God of heaven and old stands out of the water and in the water, whereby the world was being overflowed and God made.
Yeah. So he uses creation there
Yeah. So notice in these concepts that we're talking about, and we're going to get to it even more, there is a apparent delay, which is caused by questioning God and also being shameful because, well, if my God isn't here, then maybe he isn't real. And that being the case makes them look towards something else. And so Peter reminds them that God is the creator. It seems very weird that Peter would say, well, remember, God's the creator, once they doubt that God is existent. And I think that goes back to our story in Exodus 32.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Which what Peter's predicting is that in the end time, there will be another series of people that experience Bosch.
Yeah, because think about it. I mean, as a pastor, you've probably heard this, especially as an Advent pastor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so since the Father slept, it says there in Peter, which simply means the founders are all dead. Like, my father believed it, and he's dead.
And they preached the same message, and nothing has changed. So
yeah, everything's the same. I mean, they quit printing the penny yesterday, but other than that, everything's pretty much normal, right?
Yeah.
Where is he?
That is interesting. Now, let's contrast that with the attitude of a proper saint.
Okay.
Right? Now, what I love about God is that he doesn't modify his schedule to suit our impatience.
Say it again. Please, I'm serious. Say it again.
Okay. God doesn't modify his schedule to suit our impatience.
Yeah, preach that. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we want God to do. But really, because God doesn't modify his schedule to suit our impatience, we create other gods and put them in place of God.
Crazy impatient.
Because we're impatient. But the other thing I would say too is the saint doesn't modify his schedule to match your impatience either.
Mm-hmm.
Because Moses doesn't hurry up and come down.
Yeah, doesn't the Sabbath kind of teach this a little bit?
Of course it does.
It's kind of a protest to that impatience,
it is.
Right?
Yeah, it is. It's a protest against the impatience of society.
Totally.
Like you're working so hard to get, enough wealth, right? And all these different things. But anyway, we don't have to get into that. But Revelation 14:12.
Patience.
Here is the example of a proper saint.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the patience of the saints.
Solid.
Here are those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. That is a proper saint.
Mm-hmm.
So if you and I are leaning towards impatience, and impatience takes us to the place of embarrassment simply because because the church delays, because again, according to Dietrich Bonhoeffer, we're talking about two types of churches here.
We are.
Because the church leadership delays in responding to our requests and our desires and our the things that we are worried about. We're like, I don't want to be associated with this. That's Bosch.
That's Bosch. That's shame. That's doubt. That's all those things. And unfortunately, that shame not only creates more distance between us and God, not of God's volition, but with what we are, right? It pushes us not only away from God, but again, as human beings, we have a need to worship or idolize something or someone.
So here's something that really bugged me, right? And it still bugs me because I see, especially now in the modern day church environment,
okay,
I see less of Revelation 14:12, and I see more of Exodus 32 in the church.
The church of the world versus the church of God.
Yes. I see people making gods out of politics. I see people making gods out of sexuality.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I see people making like all these different things. It's like, if you're not going to give me what I want, God, I'm going to try to find it somewhere else.
And I agree. And here's what we do on your saint. And this goes back to Bonhoeffer. He says the first step of the church of the world is impatience. And then he says, this is a quote, the second step that follows directly after the first step of impatience is the church of the world, the church of the priests, wants something that it can see.
There goes the president.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
A figurehead. Like, yeah. It really bothers me, man. I think we have made the act of voting so sacred that fixes all of our problems.
And we've talked about the subject before, right? I think one of the reasons that we get so passionate about politics was because we believe that politics do make a difference in our lives. And then we don't get so passionate about the gospel because we might deep down not believe that it makes a big difference in our lives.
That's true. Say that again.
Yeah, because we can see politics working, good or bad, and we can be very passionate about whether we believe it's good or bad. We see that it's making a difference in our daily life. I mean, 50-year mortgage would make a difference in my life.
Bro, you better stop.
Right?
Don't do it, man. Don't do it. That's you become a slave to debt.
Sure.
I know you're not
I'd like to see the Epstein files, right? I mean, all of these things because we see that it makes a difference in society.
Yeah.
And so
but those are the visible things. Yeah.
They're visible. We can see them. They're tangible. But when it comes to the gospel, I think some of us, if not many of us, deep down, we don't really see an effect of the gospel. So we're not talking about it as loudly as we do things that we see all around us.
Here's an interesting thing there, right? Jesus is worse than Nicodemus, in describing the work of the Spirit in the context of the gospel.
Sure.
The wind blows where it wishes, and you can't tell where it's coming from, where it's going.
Yeah.
So that's the frustration, right?
Yeah.
That frustrates us. But notice Paul's perspective on that. Romans 1, verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation. So it's interesting that Paul takes the same word, the same idea of bush, and he's like, I am not ashamed of the gospel. Whereas many people find themselves ashamed of that which is associated with the gospel, and they're not ashamed of that which is associated with politics. And I say this to say that there are times when I see comments, when I hear conversations, and I'm like, bro, you should be ashamed to say that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then they're shamefaced to open their Bibles in public, or shamefaced to open their mouth to say, hey, look, Jesus can save your life when that opportunity presents itself. So to me,
So on that,
go ahead.
Paul and shame. Now, we don't have the word bosh in the New Testament because it's not the same.
It's more
language,
of an equivalency.
Right? It's Greek. And so, there's like the Septuagint. We have time to get into all of that. But Hebrews 12 talks about this very same concept.
Yeah. Verse 2.
In verse 2, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising
the shame,
and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And we'll get to this probably at the later part of the episode, but Bosch is very much at the cross.
That's
Jesus takes on that shame, that deep level of shame that separates, and that separated him from his Father.
In order to bridge the gap.
In order to bridge that gap. But we can't jump ahead too much because that's more of a climax.
Okay, all right.
I want to go back to that, putting something in the place of, you mentioned idolizing, like voting.
Yeah.
This really bothers me as a pastor, and if you're listening, any of my members or anything like that, listen up. Have you noticed that people sometimes, they would never admit it, but they want to make sure that the pastor is praying for them? Almost as if the pastor's prayers work a little bit better than...
Yeah, like we're closer to God?
Yeah, or, like an elder visited them in the hospital, but if the pastor didn't come and visit me in the hospital, it doesn't mean anything. I think that there is a very dangerous thing that happens here. Like, yes, we want a God that we can see. We don't see God in the flesh right now. And I think sometimes we are in danger of doing that to our church leaders. We kind of put them on the same platform as God. Now, they have a platform that they can stand on that is important and may deserve respect. That's true. But I think that often we set up our church leaders for failure. So this is kind of a podcast for young people. And one of the things that young people love to do, and I understand why, young people love to talk about the hypocrisy of the church, right? Love to talk about the shortcomings of leaders, of which there are not few. There may be many of those. We love to talk about how we would do things differently or how we may do things better. And that's true, but I think that we sometimes set ourselves up for church hurt and set ourselves up for being disappointed in church structure and leadership because we often put church leaders on a pedestal that they should not be in. We put them in the place of God, right?
They become our idols.
And so when an idol or when God makes a mistake, and not only is a mistake, but we view that as almost God making a mistake.
Yeah, I am with you on that 100%. And that, I would say, that irks me too, because I see it not just, in my church, but I see it happen.
It happens everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, I would say the church has its own version of American Idols.
Fact.
In our preachers, like, oh, that guy preaches well, and no one preaches truth like he does.
Yeah, who's your top 5?
It's like the worst. It's kind of like Paul's argument in 1 Corinthians. It's like, some say I'm of Paul, and some say I'm of Apollos, and Paul is like, what in? Paul is like, bro, that is so childish. Like, how in the world could you be having that kind of conversation? Yeah. That's elementary.
It is.
And I think the lack of Christian maturity leads to the substitute of idolatry.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the issue we're facing. Now, I don't know if you've ever read this book. As you were talking, it made me think about it. It's called The Altars Where We Worship. And it was written by, I think it's a guy named Juan M. Floyd Thomas and Stacy M. Floyd Thomas. And there's another author, a third one.
Okay.
And they're looking at, the subtext of the book is the religious significance of popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, if we were to put the same metric that we use for religion and apply it to culture, how much of a fit does religion seem to be in these contexts?
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, and if not just it's also contrast, but it's also by comparison. So it's very interesting that the significance of some of the things in popular American culture, you see a high significance in terms of kind of like the fervor sort of matches, or or the fervor is more over here than it is over here.
Sure.
For religion, for example. So here are the 6 altars they mentioned. I'm curious to know what you think. The first one is body and sex.
Yeah, we'll see that in this story.
Yes. Second, big business.
Yeah.
That has to do with wealth. The third is entertainment.
Oh, totally.
The fourth is politics.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 is sports. And number 6 is science and technology.
Sure. Yeah. All those things can very easily become replacements of God. And I think there's a lot more than 6, but those are some good ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I, especially now, I mean, you can see these things in competition.
Yeah.
If you compare the football stadiums to the church service.
But
No, it's often said, right? And I'm curious to hear your perspective on that. Said,
but here's the thing, man. Okay, so you see stadiums, you can compare them to the Colosseums. That is true. I made that comparison once a long time ago to a church member. I'm like, I was kind of complaining a little bit. And I said, they can pack stadiums, but we can't pack a church. And he looks at me and he said, are you providing the excellence that you would get in a stadium that you would here? I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, when you go to a stadium, you're watching professionals. And the professionals are working in excellence and they train and they do everything that they can to earn those crowds, which is true. I don't know if what we do in church is really our excellence.
Well, that's what I would say. That's an area that I'm passionate about.
I agree.
To aim for excellence. I mean, you and I especially, right? Like doing this podcast, and I know our listeners can't really see, behind the audio, but we work extremely hard to put our best foot forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's a requirement. I love that self-reflection and that response. That's a great response from a church member because that's really true.
It's facts.
We treat the gospel as if it's no more important than sports.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue, right? Excellence should not be out there, should be here too.
It should be the most here.
Most importantly here.
And that's the thing. Like some people be like, well, people don't really, value these things anymore. People don't give tithe and offering like they did. Going back to the story, Exodus 32, verse 2.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, we've gotten through one verse in 40 minutes. Verse 2. And Aaron said to them, break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people broke off their golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them to Aaron.
Sacrifice. How much were they willing to? Oh, okay, go.
On that thought, like, people just don't have the time. People don't have the money to give. People don't want to give that. Stop it.
They're giving it somewhere.
Exactly. This is again the same sermon that we quoted at the beginning with Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Okay.
He says this: we hear it said that the masses are not ready to make sacrifice. But those who say that don't know the world well. The human race is ready to make any sacrifice that allows it to celebrate itself, to worship its own accomplishments. The worldly church, the church of Aaron, is ready for any sacrifice it can make to its own God. Before that God, we have fashioned as it pleases us. The human race and the worldly church are happy to smile and kneel. It is God who finds few prepared to sacrifice. So it's not about sacrificing in general, but it's about sacrificing to what pleases me.
And there's another commentator here that I think might be good to add, where he says that Aaron was trying to use steps to discourage the passion for an idol. And he used sacrifice as a barrier.
He did. So
so when he says, hey, break off the earrings, it's as if he's saying, look, I know they're not going to do that. But that's to misunderstand the point you just made. And that is, people are willing to make a lot of sacrifices to sin.
Oh, totally. Or just have a good time.
Yeah.
It's not always sin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But this is like blatant.
This is blatant sin. And I think, to the point, I think Aaron here is uncomfortable with what the children of Israel are asking him to do. And he's not going to say no because I think he's scared.
Yeah.
But he does, like you said, he's trying to discourage it. So notice he says only the earrings of the women and children. He doesn't say the men. And men would have been kind of the keeper of the finances, right? So I think he's trying to make it difficult
for the guys.
Like,
but I don't want to take these off my kids.
I mean, this is wealth that we're taking away. But no, it says that all of them, including the men, do it. And this is after they've already given to the temple.
And that's fascinating to me, right? It's fascinating to me that, again, and this is just a powerful point, there are times when we have to recognize that we are willing to give much for our idols.
Totally. Okay, I'm going to time out here for just a minute.
Sure.
I'm a huge Mariners fan.
I know you're a huge Mariners fan.
It breaks my heart. Anyway, one of the reasons that the Mariners are so important for me is it's like a connection with my dad. And I get kind of emotional thinking about it because, it's just what we did.
Growing up,
like it is, when I think of baseball, I literally see my dad's face in my mind. And that's big for me. Anyway, this last year, the Mariners almost made the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
by the way, I heard about this.
Yeah,
I heard it from you because you were pretty excited about it.
They had playoff games at home in Seattle. My dad is the man. My dad never does anything for himself. He drives a beat up car. He's adopted multiple children and done that, made those financial decisions and has sacrificed financially to do that. My dad has no hobbies. He just works and goes to church. That's what my dad is. My dad is a very others focused person. He was going to be in Seattle on a work trip the day the Mariners were playing. And I'm like, I want to send him to that game. So I couldn't be there, but I looked at tickets. $400 for a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I spent that money so fast. I bought that ticket so quick. And it was great. And I don't regret doing that at all. I don't regret doing that at all. Some of you that are listening might be like, dude, that's a waste of the Lord's money. You might be right. But I don't regret it at all. I think I was honoring my dad in doing that. But regardless, I do think if I was sitting in church and somebody was like, hey,
I need $400.
We need $400 because there's a family over here that's struggling with paying this or that. I'd be hesitant to stroke that check.
Yeah, and man, this is why I love and appreciate you, man. Yeah, our honesty is refreshing. So, and it's not only you. You know, there's something that's very different about family. You know, like, and we're intrinsically bound in some way, especially when we know that we're loved.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a hard comparison. I feel. You know, family versus a stranger that needs something, and perhaps the moment in itself also speaks to the sacrifice that you're willing to make and the memories that you're sharing, you know. And for our listeners, by the way, as I'm looking at Garrett talking about his dad and Mariners, you literally, you looked very different.
Yeah, I have to look up.
Yeah,
to keep from crying.
you're like, you're so like you're very. That's heartfelt what you just shared.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I had to let our listeners know that. And I would say that there are similar examples for me. I mean, okay, so right now, and I know you're aware of this, my family, and I have a lot of friends back home in Jamaica that went through Hurricane Melissa.
So thankful that your family's safe.
Me too. I've been through a hurricane before. Right? It's one thing to know that your family is going through it, but when you know what it's like,
sure,
it's very different. And so for weeks, man, I was worried. I'm like, man, what in the world? Like, what happened? Like, are they okay? Like, the phones are down. There's no connection, no communication. I have brothers and a sister there still, and I have a family that took care of me. I mean, there are people that I really love and care about. And so I've never done a GoFundMe in my life.
I saw that the other day.
Right, like to me, you know, I like trying to work on my things myself. I like to solve my problem because I'm a manly man.
Yeah,
you know, I will work on my house and I'll get it done. Right, and praise God for the help when it comes, but I'm not going to wait for it to arrive.
Kill yourself in the process.
Yeah, but man, I felt compelled, like I had to step out in faith and to say, God, even though this is not my preferred way of doing things, my family inspired and motivated me to seek help elsewhere.
That's hard.
Because I could not do it on my own. And so I learned something there, and that is, you are willing to do a lot for the people that you love.
Yeah.
Even the uncomfortable things, right? You're willing to make the uncomfortable sacrifices for the people that you love. And as you were talking, it made me think of another book I read. And I know we keep talking about books we read. By the way, guys, if you haven't figured it out yet, Garrett and I love reading.
Is what keeps me happy. Relationship.
And by the way, on that, I can't tell you how much money I've spent on books since I've been in ministry. That's an area of sacrifice, right? And you don't have to say it.
I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's also an obsession.
You look guilty too.
Yeah, I tell myself, tools for the trade.
That's exactly right. Like my wife. We built there's a built-in bookshelf that I put in,
sure,
and that's my limit for my physical copies, and then I went to digital.
Hard drive's got no limit.
No, the hard drive is growing. You know, so again, that's the area of obsession that we share in common. But again, this book, it's called "You Are What You Love."
Mm-hmm. That's true. Are what you eat, kind of a thing.
Yeah, kind of thing. So the same play on words, and the author's talking about that which we give our affection to eventually overtakes us to the point that we look the same and act the same as the thing.
It's true.
That we love.
In society, everyone looks the same.
Yes. Yes. So, and again, going on the other side of things, now these people are driving now towards idolatry.
Yeah.
And they become in the worshiping of and we got to get into this because they are worshiping a golden calf and they become beastly in their conduct.
Yes, beastly is a good word to put it. And that's not just a play on words too, but it affects what happens next greatly. And again, remember, let's
go.
Let's read a little more.
Okay. So
4.
Verse 4. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Now,
so much here.
There is a lot here. And again, I cannot bypass the fact that all of this took time. You're going to hear the hammer. They have to start the fire to melt the earrings. And the Bible doesn't tell us how many days this took, but it does reveal to us. I mean, you're just using your brain. Common sense is going to tell you that, not like Aaron's explanation earlier or later, where it's like, oh, we just threw it in the fire and this came out. No. All of this stuff takes time. So they could have changed course at some point.
Yeah. Also, talking about that fashion, it mentions later there in the chapter in verse 24 that Aaron used a mold. And so this is not...
You have to make the mold.
You have to make the mold, but not only that, this is not gold-plated.
This is solid gold.
Yeah, when you use a mold, it's got to be solid.
That, again, the measure of the sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure.
Solid gold.
Mm-hmm.
So he fashions this thing, and, there are some depictions of it. I know in this season we have a depiction of, AI rendering of the... Man. We weren't necessarily super happy with it. But either way, this is now set up. And did you notice the word there?
Which one? I've got a few in mind.
It says, they said.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Aaron, even though he seems to be standing aloof of the situation, he's still culpable in it.
Yeah.
They make the thing, and they said. It's as if others take on the role of leadership.
It's true.
Because Aaron is like, I don't want anything to do with this, but he does have much to do with it in that he builds the thing, and then they take charge like, these be thy gods.
Yeah.
O children of Israel.
I don't want to be too hard on Aaron. I think Aaron is uncomfortable. I think he's trying to
we've given him some
yeah,
leeway.
But this is weak leadership.
Definitely
it's weak leadership, especially somebody that's supposed to be, the mouthpiece of Moses, right? And all those things.
Oh, yeah.
And we just talked about that offline. But there's something here there's a few things here. So there, when it mentions that he fashioned it there,
mm-hmm.
That the language that is used is meant for the reader to go all the way back to Genesis when God fashioned
mankind,
Adam out of the dust of the ground. So it's a creation of God back in Genesis. It's an image of God back in Genesis. And here in Exodus, we have an image that is also created
by
but
man.
It's an image of, you could say, the beast.
Yeah, the beast. Oh, an image to the beast.
Bro, this is the first 666.
Yeah, so what's fascinating about that is the choice in material too. When you talk about creation, God made man not out of gold. And there was gold.
There was gold.
And there was good gold.
Sure.
Right? There were diamonds. I mean, there were so many materials that God could have chosen, but he uses
the most common
material, makes him out of the dust of the ground.
Sure.
But it just shows the fallacy of idolatry, right? God doesn't place value in things.
Mm-hmm. No.
And that's the thing. Idolatry is now placing a lot of value in things, and they give the thing the credit, and it's just, I pause for a moment because it blows me away to even think, but really that's the way sinners operate. We give the thing divine attribute that we've made, and God doesn't do that with anything. He gives, right, mankind, breathing into him the breath of life. So God is, and let us make man in our own image. So God gives mankind someone divine attributes, and we are doing the opposite, giving something divine attributes. Like, to me, again, from the perspective of God, this could be I could see why God would be very upset with this.
Oh, totally. I mean,
it's turning creation on its head.
Absolutely. And on the same subject, so Exodus chapter 30, there's a book that's sitting in front of me that I'm going to reference a few times.
Oh, we got to give a shout out to our guy.
So we have a friend that we greatly enjoy. His name is Richard Davidson. He is a PhD. He's written a few books. He wrote one on the Sanctuary called The Song of the Sanctuary.
Yep. That was a good one.
Fantastic really good book. And then before he wrote that, he wrote a book called The Flame of Yahweh.
Isn't that great?
Yes. I originally brought this book because he has a gigantic section on the Song of Solomon, which I was trying to understand more at the time. This book, The Flame of Yahweh, is pretty much, it covers any sexual implication in the Old
Exodus
Testament.
story. Now, all of Old Testament. I will say that for our listeners who are into reading, this is Dr. Davison writes in a very scholarly way.
It's a tough read.
It's man.
But it's incredible.
Yeah, there are many gems to gather, but man, he's very dense.
It's deep. I mean, there's sometimes where there's like one sentence and then the footnotes are the rest of the page. It's very well researched.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
He brings out a very interesting point because we're going to see as time goes on in this story that there's nakedness that is involved.
Yes.
So, of course, he writes about it because that's a sexual implication. He mentions what I find it very interesting. In Exodus chapter 30, when God is talking about the creation or the building of the temple, he does it in the exact way that the earth is created in Genesis 1. So in Exodus 30, it says, and the Lord spake to Moses saying, make it after this fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he does it in 6 sections with a 7th section for rest. So pretty much all the way to Exodus 31, Exodus 30 and 31, we find 6 days of creation. And then in Exodus 31, verse 12, which would be the 7th, it says, and the Lord said to Moses, speak to the children of Israel, saying, my Sabbaths you shall keep.
That's right. So that's the 7th.
So we have the 7th that closes there in Exodus 31. The creation week is over in Exodus, talking about the tabernacle. And then what happens next in Exodus 32? The fall.
This is the Genesis chapter 3.
This is Genesis 3. It's rebellion. It's a fall. It's worshiping something that you shouldn't.
And it occurs in the context of the garden.
And shame.
Yes.
Go back to that word.
Which we haven't gone. Oh, yeah. Which, again, the same idea, right? That shows up in Genesis. Well, Genesis chapter 2, after Adam and Eve were made, the conclusion was, and they were not ashamed.
Yeah, nakedness and shame are very closely associated.
Very closely associated. Correct.
And we'll talk about
idolatry and nakedness are very closely associated.
Extremely closely associated.
So again, this is the repetition of Genesis. Now, again, the disappointing factor is this is God's second try with mankind.
Yeah.
He tried with Adam and Eve, fall. They just got out of Egypt not so long ago, and fall. And we'll see it later repeated in the biblical narrative. But that's a powerful point to say that, right after God makes the tabernacle, and his purpose there was to dwell with them, he is trying to reinstitute, or not only reintroduce himself, but reinstitute the relationship that was broken. Yeah. And right as he does it.
Yeah, so you have creation, and then you have an anti-creation with the creation of an image. And it's kind of an image of the beast, right? That we find of this false god that is fashioned. God formed man and woman out of the dust of the ground. And here, Aaron, with the help of the people, form this calf out of gold that they have taken from Egypt.
I think there's a warning here too, right? And the warning is, don't allow your pastor to be the creator of your religious experience.
It's setting yourself up for spiritual failure.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So if, and you had mentioned this before, like some people don't pray unless their pastors pray for them. Like that's the only way they experience prayer. And I do not like the idea of, in the context of, some people's experience, the idea of God only getting visiting rights on Sabbath, on the weekend, and you have nothing to say to God, no connection with God in the week. That's a problem. You are setting yourself up for the fall. And so this idea of they've given so much, they've invested so much into Aaron, and that's part of the issue, right? Mm-hmm. It's like they're always looking for a substitute. And here, right, and I don't know if you mind us reading the next verse here, because I think this ties into our conversation. It says, and Aaron saw, and actually, let me read the King James here, because this might be. It says here, verse 5, and when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh.
Yeah, so this is another one of those. Yeah.
Okay, so what's fascinating again about Aaron, notice what he does. He doesn't build the altar on the calf. He builds it before it. So the idea of separate, but in the same location.
Which is very Egyptian, because they would often use the golden calf or a calf in general as like the pedestal to put God on, or one of their gods on top of.
Yes.
So the fact that Aaron chooses a golden calf, yes, there's some implications as far as what that calf would represent. But like you said, the way that where he puts the altar, and then he says a feast to the Lord, is Aaron's trying to say, well, let's not deny Yahweh. Let's at least make this polytheistic and have God be the more important God.
Which, again, the danger of compromise, man. The danger of compromise, because you lose my Jamaican accent was, I was about to say control. You lose control.
I was going to try and mimic you, but I won't do it.
You lose control of the situation when you compromise. Yeah. Right? There's no way to pull this back. Aaron is really trying to make this work, but you can see how his compromise is leading on a downward spiral. It's like, I lost control about I was trying to prevent them by asking them to make a sacrifice. Oh man, they're crazy. They made, I try to at least put an altar before the golden calf to make sure that they know that, and I at least try to say the right thing. Let us make a feast to Yahweh, the Lord, right? That is the Lord. But what Aaron doesn't realize here is that he's totally lost the whole deal.
Bro, it's over.
It's over. I mean, now there's no more Yahweh.
No.
Because you can see the conduct that later shows up. It's like they've lost sight of, and again, the fire is still on the mountain.
Right behind them.
Now, we've argued about this a little bit. The symbol of God on Mount Sinai, the fire still blazing up there, and they see a visual representation in the fire. But now that was not enough for them, so they choose another representation of Yahweh.
Yeah. So
why did we argue about it?
We argued about this because you're saying there's two symbols that are here. You have the fire on top of the mountain, and then you have the golden calf, right?
And by the way, I'm going to add to say that the fire was chosen by God.
Fire was chosen by God. I'm saying the fire is no symbol, and you're like, well, wait a minute, right? But remember what Hebrews says: our God is a consuming fire.
Correct. So, yeah, and I know we've argued about this, and my point is, God is not fire, right? He's a consuming fire, right? But again,
it's not his face.
It's not his face. That's my point.
Yeah, I get it.
Right? Like when you go and you look, when we get to heaven and we see God, we're not going to see just fire, right?
No, you'll see God.
The Bible uses symbols and imageries, and so again, and I get your point. But I think I'm going to hold it mine.
I hear you. I'm just saying, I'm like, bro, how much more do you need? And I know I'm kind of picking on the children of Israel a little bit, but you just left Egypt. You've seen the manna. You've seen the plagues. You've seen the Red Sea split.
You don't need the fire.
You've heard the voice of God. You've heard it. Moses said, I might be a while. And yeah, he's taken a few weeks, but chill. Like, God is right there. So, I'm not surprised because they're humans, and humans, the only thing that humans are consistent at is being stupid and inconsistent. So I'm not surprised that this is what's happening.
Neither is God.
But it's like, oh my, in the face of glory itself, you're doing this. It's so just, I can't even put it into words.
Okay,
flippant.
Notice the dedication. Okay, this is verse 6. All right. It says, and they rose up early.
Devotion. Yeah, you got your money dedicated. You've got
they
your
pay tithe
dedicated to this thing. And now, all right, let's wake up at the crack of dawn so that we can have our morning devotion.
Okay. How hard is it to get people in church early?
It's tough. I mean, I'll be honest, it's tough for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this thing. We have it once a month at our churches. One in Rockford and one in Sparta, the two churches I'm currently pastoring. We have something once a month called sacrificial prayer.
Yeah.
And it's challenged to come to church at 7 a.m. on a Sunday and pray for an hour. Tough to get people there.
Yeah. I mean, I must confess, there are times where I get to church late.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're Jamaican.
Well, that's no excuse to.
It kind of is.
I kind of have a bad sense of time. I'm just going to be honest. And my wife tells me all the time. I always think like I have enough time. It's like I never learned that lesson. It's like I don't. It's in Jamaica, and again, I know you say that, right? I'm trying not to stereotype my country. But I guess I'm living up to the stereotype a little bit. But we are so chill.
Oh, I know.
Right? It's just like there's no. I mean, the mantra of Jamaicans is like, don't worry. You know, it's like there's no worries.
They put that in a song somewhere,
yeah,
didn't they?
Yeah, we don't want to quote that song right now. Don't go back to to the old days, my guy.
Oh.
So because of that, I think my sense of time is not realistic, and I know it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I'm still trying to work on that. But yeah, my going back to what we said about, getting up early for the wrong reason, right? Because that's what we see here, right? In Exodus 32, they get up early to go celebrate a feast to a golden calf. And what I wanted to highlight is, how do we measure dedication?
That's
right?
a good question.
Like, how do we compare, perhaps maybe, this may be a self-reflection type question. Like, how dedicated am I to God compared to other things?
Yeah. I mean, Jesus says, by your fruits, you'll know them, right? So there's that. But I think it's where we're talking about time. Yeah. Right. And I think it's, priority. You only have, the thing is with money, it's argued that you could always get more of it. Like you can always find a way to earn more money and then you'll have more to spend. Time is pretty much the only thing that we possess that we can never get back. You only have so much of it. You don't know how much of it that you have, but you know that it's finite. We know that we'll live with Jesus forever later and it'll be infinite. But for now, the time that we have is very limited and you'll never get that minute back. And so prioritizing time for God is usually one of the elements in how we measure dedication. And really, not just with God, but anything. Like if you're practicing an instrument for 3 hours a day, well, you're pretty dedicated to that.
To do that,
because that's 3 hours you're not getting back. So yeah.
I was talking with someone about this the other day, and they were telling me about Steve Jobs' sort of end-of-life reflection. Because, he had cancer at the latter period of his life. And he had mentioned during a talk, I think he was talking to some students or something, and he's like, man, how much obviously I'm going to paraphrase, but it's like, I am willing to pay whatever it takes for someone to take my cancer away.
Sure, can't do it.
And he had all the money.
Oh, yeah. Fame, all of it.
Couldn't do it.
No.
Like, there's no reversal of that finite amount of time that he had. But and I know, sitting here with Apple computers, that Steve Jobs was very dedicated to Apple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was his life.
And I think, again, using the same idea, same language, I wonder what the end of our lives will look like when we get to that point. Like, man, how much time did I actually give to God? Yeah. Like, will society be able to look at me and say, man, like that guy, I can tell that he was dedicated to God his whole life.
Yeah.
And that's the measurement of time.
You see it the most with kids. Like, there's I listened, and this might, some of my listeners might disagree, but I enjoy seeing what Jordan Peterson talks about with child psychology. And he said something a little while ago that really struck me. He said, you really only have 16 summers with your kids. Because the 17th summer, they might go to camp, or they might get a summer job, or they might go on a mission trip. So you have 16 summers with your kids.
That's not a lot of time when you look at it.
No, it's not. And then when you recognize, oh, my boy's almost 4, I've got 12 left. And then, okay, he's not good. I mean, he'll remember a little bit and he'll see pictures, but the memories that he will make in those years when he, like ones he'll really remember, there's not 16 of them. There's like 8 of them or 9 of them. That's not much time. And it goes so fast.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if we were to use the same measurement with God, say 80 years maybe?
Sure, we'll give that.
Yeah, you only have 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you are committed and you get, saved and eternal life is yours, then 80 extends beyond that. But yeah,
it's infinite.
We just have 80 years to get it right. That's if by his grace and mercy, he doesn't extend it beyond that.
And this is also another throwback to Genesis. When would Adam and Eve come and talk with God in the cool of the day?
Yeah.
Right, in the morning. So you see that there. We're about ready to get, Jermaine, I don't know if I'm quite ready to jump into this next portion of the story. I think we should take a break.
You want to take a break?
I need a break.
Okay. All right. Let's do a break.
And whether they get this in the next episode or we just come right back, whatever, we'll figure it out.
All right. Sounds good to me.